Very often when I give talks in various places, I mean, I'll make a comment that's pretty provocative, which is to say that in almost all cases, business plans are wrong. Well, I picked bioscience because I've really been interested in science since, I certainly wouldn't say infancy, that would be a little bit of an exaggeration, but from very early in my childhood I was fascinated by science. While a graduate student, I had thought about the possibility of using my scientific background in a more practical context, and began to consult while a graduate student with a actually merchant bank, actually CEO of a merchant bank, investment bank in New York City that manages significant amounts of family money and outside money. And it was 1981 when this group was looking to find ways to invest in this nascent area called biotechnology. And with that introduction and with that ability to participate in the process of finding opportunities and doing your due diligence and opportunities and ultimately consulting for companies in this field, then I really built my career. Entrepreneurship, whether it be outside of the context of large companies or in the context of smaller companies, may be the basis for real innovation. I have a view that entrepreneurship is something that is a composite of what may be innate and what might be learned. Because an entrepreneur really has to be an individual who, and this may sound somewhat strange, an individual who doesn't necessarily fit in the usual mold. An individual who is not comfortable being entirely governed by rules. A person who is willing to take risk, but there is some innate drive that they have to really drive change, to be innovative, creative, and to not be satisfied with the status quo. Well, the advice that I give to entrepreneurs and small company executives is to pursue discussions very early with companies who might be partners or strategically valuable in the future. The 34 years of my career, we've had market cycles which have been exceedingly difficult. And during those periods of time, you are really almost relying upon the non-dilutive strategic partnership, collaboration opportunities in order to provide funding for companies. It's important to make the point that the reason that today is a very exciting time is that there's a lot of money that's available for deployment in life sciences. And the reason is that there's been a lot of value has been created, reflecting the fact there's been a great deal of progress in that intersection between biology and technology, and I would say talent. And in some cases, having a transaction or a collaboration or a partnership early or at a critical stage in the evolution of a company, it would bode well for the possibility that a company may ultimately be able to be acquired, and where shareholders can monetize value in a very effective way. And it's sometimes what you don't know is more important in terms of awareness than what you do know. And these types of discussions with strategic partners are extremely important in terms of the feedback that one gets. Very often when I give talks in various places, I mean, I'll make a comment that's pretty provocative, which is to say that in almost all cases, business plans are wrong. At the outset, I had a great opportunity during the 90s for almost 10 years to work with Oak Investment Partners as part of their healthcare investing team. And during that time, I had experience with looking at many business plans. I also learned that this premise of the first business plan, not being the one that ultimately succeeds, is probably true. And that's why picking the right people to work with is so important. And it's a theme that I've had throughout my career, that it is important to know not only what the science is all about, but also how it's come together and who can be the source of future science and technology that can ultimately be essentially tractable for developing new treatments, therapies, technologies, etc. The first lesson in the business was even before I had my first client. It was at the time that I initiated my first client relationship. I walked into an interview process thinking that that the entirety of what one needs to do is to really figure out the science. Unfortunately, that was not fully correct. And really what I learned in short order was that it was really the human element, the ability to find people and talent with whom one can work in order to really, even at the point of deciding what to do, it's interacting with and building upon the experience of others who can help in the decision making of which project, which technology, which approach one might pursue. It's a team effort, and I think that that's really been that's certainly been the approach that I've taken over the years. But one of the most important due diligence items that I have used in actually each of the companies that I've been involved in building has been just the question of whether I can identify the right management team in order to work with and really ultimately build the enterprise. On the flip side, by attracting a high quality team and or working with an existing team, not only is there a greater chance that whatever we think we want to do up front can be successfully implemented or executed, but because so often what happens in our field is that what you think you are going to do and can do doesn't work. And as a result, having people who are smart, agile, capable, passionate, entrepreneurial, who can pivot, who can respond, who can ultimately change gears, is extremely important. Well, I think that the opportunities to assemble teams in Connecticut, really, there are a number of levels to that question. The first is the access to technical, what I might call technical talent, which often comes from academia. So we have the benefits of Yale, UConn, within a short driving distance from where I am in New Haven here. And there really there's an extraordinary range of talent and expertise, and certainly from the standpoint of my experience during the 6 years running the Global Health Series with Yale, I was able to tap into really just an extraordinary group of people, department chairs, scientists, researchers, who really represented a broad range of expertise and experience. The other aspect of this is really corporate management talent. And whereas years ago we had perhaps a larger representation of pharmaceutical companies in the area, although even today, today we have a smaller footprint of Pfizer. Still, Pfizer is present in Groton. We have Bristol-Myers Squibb in Wallingford. We have Boehringer Ingelheim in Richfield. Years earlier, we had Bayer in West Haven. That was, in the earlier days, a tremendous resource. We now have a situation in which there's been downsizing due to the restructurings that are occurring in the pharmaceutical industry. And with that downsizing, we have the opportunity to work with people who have been inside of these companies and are seeking to be more entrepreneurial and to redeploy their talents in new ways in smaller companies, and that is a very exciting opportunity that we have in Connecticut. And we certainly are proactive in our discussions with some of these executives who are seeking to do something new. Mentorship is really a theme for my own career, and also it's a theme that I think is so important for those who are seeking entrepreneurial careers of their own. Although I could argue that my education really has been extremely important in terms of giving me some of the tools that I have used in my career. It's equally, if not more important, to have had the opportunity to work with people who have really provided and served as personal models, and really provided as well practical experience, and also to sort of be able to sort of evaluate and learn how people utilize not only sort of the basics, but also how they can integrate and ultimately use judgment in concluding what one should do. And I think that in almost all aspects of my career, I could actually cite individuals who've really served as mentors, whether they have been people in science, people who have been in business, those in business that I've learned a lot from, for example, those in the venture capital world, those in the corporate world. And many of these people ultimately not only have served as mentors for me, but I've over the years served as mentors for them. And under the best circumstances, collaborative relationships, partnerships that one put in place really give the opportunity for bidirectional mentorship, where you have complementarity of experience, skills, and that's really what happens in many of the, it's happened in many of the cases that I've been involved in terms of building companies, where I've identified an individual who might, for example, be a world-class drug developer who has never built a company, or maybe has never raised venture capital, or perhaps has never done a transaction involving licensing and technology. That's an area, those types of situations where we can really join forces and ultimately bring each of our experiences to the table is quite powerful. One area that I think is really important is to focus on the next generation of entrepreneurs and those that are going to be forging new paths in the life sciences. But I think it's very important for those of us who've had some opportunities for success to give back, and as well show that next generation that it's not merely a function of financial or business success, but it's a function of sort of cultivating the right sort of values, integrity, and identifying sort of ways in which we can give back to society, not just to basically sort of achieve the glory or the financial rewards of what one might be able to do in business. So I think it's a luxury to be able to do it at this stage of my career, but I do think that if I had to do something over again, I would have probably started doing it earlier.